The first question, straight from the dyno's mouth, is, Jaime, why did Ferrari fall apart on Sunday? So yeah, this is to do with the fact that obviously Leclerc started on pole for the race, but quickly fell back throughout, and it was very, very noticeable how much it fell off. First of all, there was talk that maybe there was problems with the engine itself. I believe he said something about clipping at one point, but that did seem to be him just pushing more on his battery. Then there was talk about chassis damage, but from what it seems, and from the answer we've got from this, the blunt answer is that it is to do with Ferrari's plank wear still, but not directly. So essentially, the brass tacks is it was to do with the tires. But just to explain, at the start of the stint with the hard tires, it seemed like Leclerc was having an issue with the engine at first. I believe he complained about clipping at one point, but it turned out to be nothing to do with that. Then there was, talk about it being a chassis problem. However, it quickly turned out after the race, from the reporting we heard and from things that Fred said, it turned out to be all to do with tire pressure. Essentially, the new suspension that they've brought in hasn't fixed the severe issue they're having with running too close to the ground and with controlling the mechanical platform. And therefore, depending on the level of downforce, the tires they're running and so on, they can end up being far closer to the ground than they need to be. And therefore, they will wear out the plank, cause them to be disqualified like they were in China earlier this year. So in order to ensure that they weren't getting massive plank wear, they were inflating the tires past the minimum tire pressures to allow the car to be slightly higher up. And this is why we saw that other cars around it were grinding the plank a little bit more. Basically, Ferrari need to be overly cautious in this area. And therefore, once you hire the car up, two main things are happening. One, you're losing underfloor downforce because the car is raised off the ground, so the Venturi effect isn't being maximized like it is by other cars that can run much lower. And then also, when you're raising the pressure of the tire, there's less surface area. Basically, it's not sticking to the ground as much, and therefore you have less grip. So both things are happening. So you're on a slower tire, you've raised the car, so you're losing downforce more, and you have less grip directly from the mechanics of the tire, thanks to having a higher tire pressure. See, the teams always want to run on the lowest tire pressure possible because obviously lower tire pressure means more surface area of the tire is touching the ground, which just means more grip. So all of these factors together, once he switched onto the hard tires, essentially caused all of these problems for the team. That's what it seems like so far. Basically, the new rear suspension, the new mechanical setup of the car hasn't fixed some of the core issues of the car, or at least have fixed it when they're in certain setups on certain tires with certain downforce levels, but it hasn't given them that wide range. And essentially that meant the car went from an incredible operating window where Leclerc's brilliance was able to get them on pole and lead the race at the start, to knocking them completely out of that setup window when they had to go onto the hard tires, which probably also meant that they had to change the front wing angle for downforce to accommodate the hard tires they were going onto, which is probably why Leclerc was shouting. Essentially, Ferrari is doing what it's always doing, which is completely screwing up everything. And I'm just somewhat hopeful now that maybe with Fred Vasseur being given a little bit of breathing room, that he'll have time to actually work with the team and get on top of this stuff. But I'm not that hopeful because essentially, Mattia Binotto and Fred Vasseur have shown that they can kind of pull the team up if you just give them time. But what happens is, as soon as they get a few races where things go wrong, the team principal is more worried about being fired by the board than he is about actually fixing issues. And he just, which is normal, because if you know you're going to be fired if you have two bad races, you're trying to quickly fix things instead of looking at long-term solutions. And this is why I don't see Ferrari getting any better anytime soon. But yeah, the long and short of it is, they still haven't quite fixed their mechanical platform. The suspension hasn't completely fixed their issues. It has fixed some issues, not all of them. And therefore, they're having to run tires at a higher tire pressure, which therefore gives them a ton of other problems and loses them downforce in all areas, Jaime. So I hope that answers that. It's a bit of a shit one for Ferrari. All right, let's see what we got next here. Vlad asks, why should I use a VPN? And what's the best one? What an interesting question, Vlad. When you're racing around the internet at full speed, who is protecting you from hackers, trackers, and those pesky digital DRS zones? That's where my favorite VPN, NordVPN, comes in. Think about it like the security cell for your life, keeping your chassis safe and you protected, while keeping you anonymous and, importantly for Formula One fans, blisteringly fast. Whether you're just trying to stream races while you're abroad or watching motorsports like an odd weirdo in a field as I would, or just want to keep your data safe from shady sponsorship deals a la the 90s in F1, NordVPN locks it all down for you, keeping you safe behind your own shiny pit wall. But the paddock secret is you can get it right now for 77% off a 2-year deal, plus 4 months extra for free using my link nordvpn.com/Hassett. And unlike some of those 90s shady sponsorship deals, if you don't like it, you can get your money back within 30 days. So hey, Ferrari might not be able to protect their drivers from shoddy race strategies, but you can sure as hell protect yourself online with NordVPN. Now back to the next question.